Hello friends, my name is Matt. I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield, and I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. So this past Wednesday night, we started our Cornerstone Student Ministry weekly gatherings for the school year, which was super exciting to see all the students again and be with our whole team and just kick off the school year. It was a great time. Well, we started a new series. It's called More Than Enough, Stories About God's Grace, or Stories of God's Grace. And what we're going to be discovering in these 4 weeks is we're just going to watch as Jesus intersects the lives of people who just needed Jesus in a certain moment to change the trajectory of their life. And in Wednesday's message, we looked at John chapter 5, and I want to read a story that comes out of John chapter 5 to you. But before I do, I want to ask you 2 questions that I asked the students as well before we got into the text. What is your biggest problem right now? And what is your greatest need? What is your biggest problem? What is your greatest need in order to fix that problem with that problem in view? Okay? Now let me read John chapter 5 verses 1 through 15. Okay, here we go. It says, sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." And at once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids that you can carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said to me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick it up and walk?" The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later Jesus found him at the temple, and he said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." The man went away, and he told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. So I want you to keep your biggest problem in mind and your greatest need in mind. And I want you to think about the story you just heard. What is this man's biggest problem? And I think when we first hear the story read and perhaps listening to it for the first time, I don't know, we go, well, that's obvious. He's either paralyzed or lame. He obviously can't walk, because he tells us that when Jesus asked him, "Hey, do you want to get well?" he goes, "Well, sir, every time I try to get down to the pool, somebody goes in front of me." And so he can't get down there quickly in order to get in the pool that would be stirred by this angel of the Lord and give a healing. Well, as we all of a sudden go, I think his greatest problem is that he can't walk, or he's lame, or he's paralyzed. Something I propose to the students is I think his biggest problem is actually something else. You see, he says, "I don't have anyone." You see, this man needs someone to help him, right? He needs someone to get him healed. He needs someone to get him in that pool so that he can be saved from this disease that he has. His biggest problem is that he doesn't have anyone. And his greatest need is that he needs someone. And yes, of course, we could go, well, he could have a family member, a friend, somebody to be there and sit with him all day and get him in the pool and get him healed physically. But what's interesting is his biggest problem is the same as actually our biggest problem. You might have said your biggest problem is something at work or at home with your family, or who knows what else your biggest problem is right now. But the reality is that we all share the same biggest problem. And that biggest problem is our sin. And the problem is that our need is beyond what we can do. You see, we have this problem called sin, and we can't fix that problem. It's why Jesus went back to this man, back in verse 14. And he approached him and he talked to him about his sin. He said, "Stop sinning so that nothing worse may happen to you." He says, "See, you're well physically now, but leave your life of sin and follow me." Because that's where salvation happens. That's where true healing happens. And friends, I think so often when we think about our biggest problem, we often omit this idea of our own personal sin. I know I often do. And I forget that my greatest need isn't something I can fix on my own. It isn't a solution that I can come up with on my own. But instead, my greatest need is Jesus intersecting my life. Is Jesus coming to me, not just to come and heal me physically, but to heal me spiritually. Not just to get rid of this problem I have on the exterior, but to do an internal work in my heart that is going to cleanse me and heal me spiritually. Friends, I don't know what your biggest problem is today. But I can tell you that sin is the greatest problem that we'll ever face. And if we neglect that issue in our life, and we focus only on the other issues that nag us each and every day, we're going to miss out on the biggest problem, and we're not going to see our greatest need, which is Jesus Christ himself. Friend, I hope you are encouraged today and you are challenged. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.